Could you tell when you were interviewing these CEOs, could you kind of pick up who was the better listener or who wasn't?
Yeah, a lot of it just on their end was just whether they were actually answering my questions, right? Because some people would sort of sit down with these predetermined talk tracks in their head, and it's almost like a politician with a talking point. It doesn't matter what you ask them, and I did a lot of work up front to make sure. I once I started Corner Office, it was soon after I created it, I was getting probably 8 pitches every single day from companies saying, "Please interview our CEO." So I was kind of like a bouncer at a club. I could determine who got in, and did a lot of work up front to make sure that they were the kind of person who was going to answer my questions. But all those interviews, I have thought a lot about listening, and for me, as much as I was focused on like, are they listening to me? It was a real kind of weekly test for me on being a good listener, because when these CEOs would sit down with me, and I did probably 99% of them in person rather than over the phone. My job was to get them to trust me and open up to me and share with me stories that maybe they hadn't shared before. And I think part of that is like, do you seem trustworthy? But I think a big part of it is that people can tell if you're listening to them. And I think you can see it in their eyes. I mean, I always say that eye contact is the 5G of communication. You can tell if somebody's distracted. And for me, it was probably the closest I ever come to meditating, insofar as I try to be super present during all my interviews and not think about the meeting I just came from, or the meeting I have to go to, or some tough deadline I'm facing 3 hours from now. Because I just learned over time that if I started getting distracted, it had this kind of butterfly effect on the interview. Like in some subtle way, I could tell the person was pulling back a little bit. So it was just this great discipline for me week after week of like, just you have to be present. Because if you really are, it is so rare these days that it can lead to some incredible moments.